So let's go into abiogenesis. How about that? So, and abiogenesis for the audience is the creation of life from non-life. Is this a fair description?
Yes.
Yeah. So my first question to you is like this. So science explainers, and those are the people who would go and give shows to people to tell them science in a simple way. They pretend that science has got life's origin figured out. And I guess your course was motivated by one specific science explainer who claimed that this is not a big deal, and talked about agendas and stuff. So my question to you is that what one will find upon reviewing the real scientific literature? So if one grabs the papers and opens them, will he find that the paper starts by saying this is a done deal and this is how it's happened? So is this what's there in the books, or it's an artifact of science explainers?
Well, certainly it's there in textbooks. But it's not there in the hardcore literature, and even the hardcore literature makes lots of unwarranted claims where they'll say they're just at the threshold. It's just a matter of evolution. It's just a matter of a million years of time from this point. But those are fallacious claims. Those are fallacious because you look for the details. It's not there. It's not there in the paper. And what happens is the uninitiated, the non-scientist reads those papers and they will pull that quote out and say, see, it says here in a peer-reviewed paper. Well, this is my argument. Even the peer-reviewed papers are full of trash. They're full of nonsensical comments. And so what happens is the people who write these papers, they never say these sort of things to me because I know it's so easy for me to challenge them on that. They will say these sorts of things to the press, and the press will take this and run with it. Or they will allow these sorts of things to go unchallenged into textbooks, such that so many people are misled. And you saw on that series, I talked about surveys that were done, which 80% of the people had college degrees of one type or another, between an associate's 2-year degree to PhD. And something like 70% of them, of the people, thought that scientists had made simple bacteria in a laboratory. Something like 60% of them thought that scientists had created simple life like a frog. A frog is not simple life, but
it's more complex than a fly.
Right, but where did they get this? They got this from textbooks that say this sort of nonsense. So yes, this is pretend. This is not true, and so the world is highly deceived on this, unfortunately.
Actually, I had this one very, very long conversation, a written one, like 90 posts or something, with one very famous science explainer, and he actually went on his show later, and he put it in the open, and what he said, he told me this: I told you that textbooks, and he pointed to a specific university textbook, and it says that novelty comes from random mutation, so you cannot say no, because then you are talking against, a university textbook. So he said, if you're not agreeing with the textbook, then he's talking to me, then you have no credibility. So I tell him, so does anything that goes in a textbook has to be true? Is this the new definition of truth? And it's miserable because when people who are not in, you're an authority, I can say, in your field, but when people who see that this does not make sense from another field like information theory or something, and talking to normal people, they would say, but it's in the textbook, and it really makes it hard. And so it's really miserable. So let me ask you this now. Even origins, now this is the bad one. So science explainers, maybe they are there for, making nice episodes or something, or a show. But even the origin scientists on the media act as if the matter is almost a done deal and that gaps are small. And I have it in mind, one of those guys who calls himself a professor. I went to his channel and I said, why are you saying this? And he just went ballistic and angry and started throwing things at me. So why is this a characteristic to the field of origins and evolution, in your opinion? I think we talked about that when we talked about anger, but uh, I don't know. Is this scientists should? What should be the normal attitude of a scientist when something is not clear through science, in your opinion? I've seen you say we don't know so many times. Why don't they do it?
Scientists want to get. I don't know why people are pushing this as if they really know it. I can see how the non-scientists, like the people who say that they're professors and they have YouTube channels, I can see how they would not know. They just don't understand. They read something in a paper that says, the origins of chirality are solved. We have so many ways to get at this, and then they accept it without looking at the details that this isn't solved at all. So if they just read the papers, they're deceived. So in some ways, they're the victim. They're a victim. They're victim of this type of writing in these papers. It really harkens back to the scientist. And so the responsibility is actually with them. This has to be deposited right at their feet. Why are they coming with this and saying that we've got this thing figured out, here's a way it happens, when they see the difficulties and they understand what I'm talking about? They understand the difficulties of the things that I am putting forward. You see that no scientists have come out and taken that challenge that I put forward. You see that scientists are not coming out and dealing with the unprotected sites. I mean, these things are hard problems. Why they're not coming out and saying this? Well, if you're in the field of the origin of life, you have to continue to have funding for your research, and you have to continue to support that. So you're not going to say we don't know what's happening. You've got to say each year we're closer to this thing. Each year we're closer to this. But now I'm able to get them. And this is what I'm going to start to do, because they have said this and they've given time frames for when this thing will be solved. But because so many of their talks have now been recorded on the internet, I can start holding them to account.
Time frame. They have given time frames.
They've given time frames for
And
solving.
what kind of time frame did they give? This is new to me. Maybe I missed it.
Yeah, like a couple of years, 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah. We will have this. So
Wow.
So that was 10 years ago. So now I'm able to go back and start calling this thing out there. And you see how this game is played. You keep saying we're close, we're solving this problem, and you keep getting support, you keep getting funding for it. Now, it's not like Origin of Life is a highly funded field. It's not. It is a boutique of a field. But they have a very influential voice in textbooks, in the way science is taught. It goes way beyond what the impact they should have for the science that they generate. It's really a small number of scientists working on this. So, it's nowhere near the funding that is given, for example, for making electronic devices or something. No, it's nothing to that scale. But even what they have a huge impact, though. And they have a huge impact, and you can see their impact based on the surveys that I had cited in there, that people are thoroughly confused on this thing. So really, all of this harkens back to them. And so they have to be held accountable for what they're saying. And that's going to start now being my target. I'm going to hold them accountable. I have their words. I have it recorded. And now we're going to start going after, because they've got to be careful what they say, because it's these YouTubers are in a sense the victims, because they take their words and they run with it. The poor press is clueless. These people in the press are absolutely clueless. They got their degrees in journalism, so it means that they're very good writers. But they don't know how to assess the science. So they hear scientists and they write articles. And very often, I know this because I talk to the press a lot, I would say 80% of the time, I am given the opportunity to vet the article before it appears. And I could say, no, you've extrapolated this too much. Let's back off on this. because the press loves to ramp things up because that's their business. If you can embellish something, that'd be great. It's up to the scientists to pull back on the reins and to say, slow down here. We really can't say this. We can't go in this direction.
Maybe they don't slow down. Maybe they let them just go, because I've seen some of them come into YouTube channels, and amazingly they say some, very long shots,
But that will not go unchallenged.
Yeah. So it's music to my ears.
That will be the next target.
I'm really this is really music to my ears to hear that you'll be doing this, because once I had this other debate with a science explainer, and he said at the end, Ahmad, you're giving me opinion. I'm referring to papers, and all what I have is peer-reviewed papers. If this is what they say, this is what I say. And I say, okay.
But they don't have, the poor folks don't have the ability to assess the peer-reviewed paper. As you saw in my talk, I said, here is what they say, but here are the results from their paper. And I would go right back to the experimental sections, the supplementary information, and look at their own data and say, here's what their own data shows, how they made this extrapolation. So people will look at a peer-reviewed paper and grab one sentence without looking at the data itself, because the data is highly embellished. Now, look, as a scientist, I know how this game is played. I know how this is done. And so I realize, these things take place because you want to project your science. But now it's gotten way out of hand to where the poor man or woman on the street is thoroughly confused, thinking that scientists, they've made cellular life. Even scientists have made simple things like frogs in a laboratory. They're so wrong on this that we got to pull back.